Good morning. How are you? Just let me check a thing. Just give me a sec. Sorry, my fucking my app stopped working and I got to troubleshoot and you only find out like half an hour beforehand. So then you end up troubleshooting. I'm just checking that I'm live. I am. Okay. All right. I had a whole freak out yesterday, which was like, I'm an idiot. I thought that I'd streamed for an hour with no sound, but it turns out that I just had my computer volume muted when I was trying to look. As you do. Am I loud enough? Am I there? I am there. Okay, we're good. So just give me one sec. Let me just open up. I keep an eye on Twitter from here because I got my phone and stuff connected now and my iPad and stuff. Like I can draw. I can go, hello. I've got all my fancy shit back again. Yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, hi. I don't know how this is useful, but it might be when I'm doing the like trading stuff, it works. Anyway. Okay. So, probably talking to nobody again because I've noticed that people have probably lost interest in this Elon Musk thing. But this is like mostly just streaming every day, getting my sort of thoughts in place because, you know, people will be like, oh, I wonder what Taya thinks about this because, you know, it's obviously a big part of, as I've said before, it's a perfect storm of many of the things that I've been sort of talking about for the last few years. Let me just make it so that my coffee does not go all over my iPad because that's guaranteed to happen. One sec. Let's move this over here. I know that that will happen. Just one sec. I'm a toddler. Okay. There we go. So I can see everything now. So I think that, look, it's very weird, like the whole reaction to this. It's funny. Like I said, it's funny. But a lot of the reason why I've done sort of a daily stream is because some of these things, first of all, why the fuck? I can do whatever I want. But, you know, most people just react every day anyway. But I wanted to just focus on this and see how I felt as sort of time progressed because this is somewhat of a perfect storm that people don't really understand. It's the problem that I've got, which is that everyone thinks that what I'm talking about is super niche and no one cares. I had some guy, this fucking idiot on LinkedIn. It's always an idiot on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's full of idiots, just how it is. But I had this guy, and we were just laughing at the Elon Musk and AOC sort of interaction where AOC is having a big old tanty about the $8 Twitter Blue fee, right? And it's just really funny to me and very enlightening because he's just handling it. It's fun, right? It's just funny to watch the tantrums. And, you know, one of my favorite things is to say, you know, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's funny, okay? But watching her suddenly go into I'm being suppressed because I had a disagreement kind of land makes it funny because it just it kind of shows the flip that occurs and how everyone, when it doesn't, this is the problem with everything being so, all tech being so dominated by the United States, which is that we end up stuck in the middle of this crackhead marriage, right? Which is that every time something doesn't go their way on either side, it is the other side fucking perpetrating some massive fucking conspiracy. Turns out her app was updated and she needed to clear the cache, right? Or force quit the app and open it up again. It's just an app update. And it's really fascinating to see this, it's just how alike this whole dynamic, how every side is so fucking alike. And at least the problem why I talk about US politics so much is that Australian politics, I mean, there's a lot going on that's quite interesting at the moment. Obviously, we've got the Royal Commission into robo-debt. We've got, the Anti-Corruption Commission. There's a bunch of stuff just happening and ticking along, right? And I do want to sort of talk. I'd like to do a little more focus on Australia, but Americans don't care. They only care about their shit. And unfortunately, because, America is inflicted on the rest of us, people like me have, you end up as that fine line between sort of lazy content and talking about something that's just in the air, right? Which is Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. But I wanted to make sure that I spoke about this sort of in real time and sort of teased out the thought that I'm having, teased out how I feel about it. And also, like I said, I had this dickhead on LinkedIn. Me and a friend were just like laughing at some of the, good, pay $8, $8. What are you going to do? Like that whole thing, it's pretty funny, right? And this dickhead, again, digital marketer, right? They're not the brightest of people. Some old dude, whatever, called himself a digital strategist. You know the type. Decided that because World War III we're on the brink of World War III, and he thinks Twitter is stupid, okay, that somehow I'm not allowed to care or talk about Twitter. And my response was basically, well, if you don't see the link between those two things, then I'm afraid, my pet, you're not a very good digital strategist. And that is the problem that we've got with the industry at large, which is a whole bunch of people who have glommed on, who have no real contextual understanding, who are only about tools and tactics and only about sales and conversion and short-sightedness and the immediate fucking benefit and the, immediate return versus actually trying to break this stuff up and understand, what's actually happened. Like there's tremendous amounts of complexity to unpacking what's happening, and for anyone to turn around and be dismissive about something like this fundamentally just shows that they don't understand it. I had this fucking fisticuffs with some socialist, again, said yesterday, nothing makes me go more fucking hardcore tech bro than other fucking socialists who don't understand how the world works. They sit in their fucking books, and it's like, no, that's not what he meant. It's not what Marx meant, you fucking moron. Marx was, first of all, pro-market. Second of all, based in reality, not theory. You fucking morons, okay? I imagine that him and I would be aligned on a lot of things, which is you don't understand what it takes, the resources that it takes to start up a tech company at scale. You can be a socialist all you like and complain about the fact that capital is needed, but capital is needed, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a base of socialism or not. The resources and labor and know-how and just all those things required to do an international tech platform that stays up and stays fairly safe and has all these things requires a lot of money. And this is the thing that I was trying to explain to this person yesterday, which is that tech is as close to, it started out as close to your idea of a co-op as you could imagine under the current structures. Like, this is the thing that I think a lot of fucking boneheaded tech illiterate people, like, you get all these people, I don't care about Twitter, it's stupid. Use it as a tool. I'll use it. Like, I've ranted about it this all week. I'll use it for free, but I'll go, I don't know why anyone cares about this. Because it's important. And just because you don't understand the importance of it doesn't mean it's stupid. And just because you don't see the value in a design and engineering and all the fucking manpower and brain power and fucking all of this stuff that goes into making tech doesn't mean it's pointless or not worth something. And this has been the theme all week, which is that, I have just felt so fucking, the thing that I've felt more than anything over this acquisition is how fucking retarded people are when it comes to tech. And they think they've got all the answers. Again, this is just Dunning-Kruger shit. You got a phone, you go, scroll my phone, I scroll it, and I drool down my fucking face. And they think they're an expert in fucking all of these things. And then they turn around and argue with me about some semantic fucking socialism issue. It's like, I know what you're talking about, you're wrong, fuck off. It's not how, there's still markets. I don't know what you want. What do you want? What's your solution? You can analyze, like, this is the problem again. This is the gap between socialist analysis and fucking ideology. Again, Marx said, fucking calm your tits. It's analysis, structural analysis, and a better way to achieve liberty. It's got not your fucking bullshit complaining, mooching fucking bullshit, where you just basically just slag off billionaires and slag off everyone in tech, slag off anyone who has a small business. Over the years, I've had all these socialists with their fucking purity tests. I've always run my business as though I'm a fucking, as though we live like as close to socialism as I can. But they sit around moaning about how I'm a fucking boss. So you fuck off. What do? Sit around fucking theorizing What do you do? What do you make? What do you create? What do you build? And again, that's just the theme this week. And it's not like, you either are left or right. It's just your worldview. But there's moochers on all sides. There's fucking rent seekers on all sides. And there's fucking grifters and moochers. I'm just sick of all of these fucking bad people floating to the top and then coming and fucking up everyone else's day because they don't understand something. They don't take the time to learn. They don't fucking act with charity. They don't understand things, try to understand things in the best possible fucking light. All they do is mooch off of other people. Don't make me think. Don't make me do any work. Everything is fucking for me and me alone. And if you won't give me everything pre-packaged, one of the things that irked me about this person, right? This is it's just a tangent. These are the kinds of fucking conversations I've been having all week, which is I don't value it, therefore it's stupid. And I won't pay for it. And I've not got any solutions. I'm just a taker and a taker and a taker and a taker. That's why, again, I'd like to tell you, that's why socialism, while its socialist analysis is correct and orienting in that direction is correct, your idea of fucking socialist utopia will never work. Because it is people like you that dominate and wreck the process. Same thing with capitalism. Both systems encourage the fuckwits to take charge. One just more than others. And it's a different kind of fuckwit. Both of them are not oriented in reality or anchored. They're just focused on narrative and ideology rather than actually what fucking works. That's historical material analysis. Easy. Now, side point. I'm fucking sick of these people that are like, my imaginary fucking co-op fairy hasn't shown up yet, therefore I won't do anything or give anyone any money. It's like, no, you just this actually just pissed me off. It really pissed me off. Anyway, it's just a side argument, but it's the level of fucking ignorance, which is that they don't value, just because they don't value, that whole conversation was basically your whole career is meaningless. What you do is valueless, and because I don't understand it, that's your fault. And I'm not going to pay it. I'm not going to take the time to learn it. And, fuck everybody. And it's the same thing with that $8 check mark. It's the same thing with fucking tech in general. It's the same thing with everyone who's just a fucking moocher. Takers, moochers. Takers, moochers. You can't win. All they do is fucking complain. He should solve world hunger. So should you. He should do something. So should you. He should use his money to pay it forward. Ha ha, he bought a company at a loss. How's he going to make money? That's been the whole fucking theme this week with these fucking dickheads. And I'm just sick of everybody, to be honest. I'm sick of everything. I'm sick of takers. I'm sick of people who's just put their fucking foot on the neck of everyone who does the work. Like I said yesterday with the fucking group assignment. The people who mooch. I'm sick of fucking moochers. And nothing turns me into a full-on fucking anarcho-capitalist fuck everybody person than dealing with socialists who don't have any fucking idea, and they use socialism as a cloak to be fucking lazier. They go, socialism isn't like free money, but you sit around saying all these fucking ideas like it is. You're an exploiter too. You're a fucking rent seeker. Not the person I argued with, just in general. I'm so fucking hate hippies. Jesus Christ. Take the time to actually digest what was intended, which was it's a critique of capitalism and how to achieve liberty under a still a market. Not how to hit people over the head and let perfect be any enemy of the good fucking all the time. Like I said, I run business. I actually believe that business in a true free market, okay, this is where me and anarcho-capitalists agree. A true free market, we have different ideas of what that looks like and means. But these, competition is good for people, and innovation is good when there's a bit of competition and motivation, okay? And also, we agree that fucking moochers exist. we just disagree on who the fucking moochers are. I'm so tired of people using socialism and things that they have misunderstood and they haven't bothered to fucking understand correctly and make it everybody else's problem. I did the work. I do the work. I read the things. I understand the things. I take the time. I fucking put in the hours. So, anyway, that's just a fucking theme this week, just in general, with people who won't, again, this started somewhat as someone going, I'm not going to pay for Patreon. Because it's just a subscription at the end of the day. I said, yes, it's a subscription that 95% goes to the creator that you consume their content. Oh no, but it's still under capitalism and I don't want to support that. Well, okay then, okay, so you're going to rip off a creator 95 cents out of 5 cents. So your 5 cents doesn't fucking go. You're not winning. You're not doing anything. What are you doing to change things? You're tinkering at the edges and you're still just using it as an excuse to mooch. That's why the word mooch keeps coming up. I'm so tired of people using political theory and some ideology that isn't actually what it was intended to be in the first place to fucking justify them being a shitty person. You can be a good person, and as long it's just like, no, fuck off. Anyway, that's a side point. But this is another thing with this guy on LinkedIn, which was like, well, we're on the brink of World War III. Why is that? Think it through. Step 2, step 3, step 4. How do we get there? Also, you're a digital marketer lecturing. Maybe look at who you're talking to first. Just go and have a look at what my qualifications are. Look at what I do. Before you start yelling about how we're heading for World War III and how Twitter is not important and this is stupid and why the fuck are we wasting our time on something you think is stupid? Doesn't mean it's not important. Doesn't mean it's not interesting, and it doesn't mean that I'm not fucking concerned with World War III because of fucking Twitter. You fucking waste of space. I'm so tired of these people. I'm so tired of moochers. And again, if I didn't I can understand why people just go full fucking fuck everybody. I really can. I don't, because I try to be patient and loving with people. But again, I'm not saying if you don't become a patron that you're a mooch. I'm saying there's people who wrap themselves in ideology and it's a right that they act like they're being a miser or fucking being a mooch or taking from others or exploiting. Especially, so this is the problem with socialists. People who live as socialists, where they go, you know what? I'm not going to fucking do anything till I have this entire perfect system till the revolution comes. And when the revolution comes, I'll fucking help. No, you won't. You'll mooch because you're a mooch. People like me are real socialists. Yes, I might be running a business, but I try to, implement things as best I can. I try to live my values, most importantly, as wherever I can and not be a hypocrite. Okay. And I try very hard to make sure that I get people thinking. I think it's a cop-out for socialists to turn around and go, this is people who should know better. This is people who not just turning around going, I'm a fucking lefty and they're an idiot. Okay, this is people who actually should know better, which is that you can't sit there folding your arms and having a tantrum until the fucking revolution happens. It may or may not come. But what are you doing now? What are you doing in the meantime? What are you actually doing? Other than attacking people for not being a perfect enough socialist on Twitter and making everyone leave the left and alienating everyone you fucking interact with because you're so absolutely insufferable. You won't pay for anything. You think that socialism is free shit and then go, socialism's not free shit. Well, you're making it look like it is. And then you wonder why these fucking tech bros and capitalist people and all, the capitalists are the fucking enemy. But you're a rent seeker. You're ultimately still a landlord. You're still just a rent seeker that has rationalized themselves with socialism because somehow they think they're stealing from an abstract concept of a billionaire rather than people who fucking work. And labor, and this is what I was trying to explain last night with tech, and it is linked to why Twitter is important, which is that I know a lot of people in tech. A lot of people in tech started out as workers. A lot of them got fucking worked their asses off to get scholarships, okay? A lot of them tried to design companies that were actually looking a lot like co-ops. And this is why these fucking right-wingers having a slag off because Twitter headquarters is nice to employees, there's excesses there. Of course, but that's not a fucking criticism. They tried to set things up in like as close to co-op as you can get. They tried to work within the system. The system sort of took over because people like you do fuck all to help. Because you sit around being outside critics all the time and don't bother. You just sit around doing fuck all and being a critic rather than building something and joining. I mean, the one thing that I have always done with Twitter, something like Twitter, is I still try to train the algorithm. I still take the time to figure out the problems. I still proactively do research and write white papers at my own expense for free because none of you fucks value it. I do all of this work, all of this hard work, and you turn around and go, well, I need a website. No, fuck off. Make it yourself. You know, and it's like, well, we can't afford it. Well, that's your problem. Figure it out. It's like, no. And this is another thing that the left do is they guilt people and think that they're not a real socialist if you won't work for free. It's like, no, I won't work for free because I know how shit costs money. When shit doesn't cost money, then we'll fucking not have money. But you still need currency in a like complex economy. I don't know what fucking universe you live in. Anyway, and also there's still like, okay, this is the Patreon argument, right? Which is that whole billionaires this was the argument that got on my tits, which was that Jack Conte, the founder of fucking Patreon, was a musician who was trying to, you know, build a platform that musicians could actually connect directly with fans to try and prevent like this sort of, you know, make musicians and creatives dependent on the teat of fucking corporations and these advertisers that you seem to think that they're the only that they fund the way you use the internet. Okay, they fund the way you use the internet. Advertisers. So you can't sit and moan about how things are and how you're the product and all that stuff. Okay, another fucking thought terminating fucking bullshit. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Fucking bullshit. Okay, all these truisms that mean nothing and do nothing and accomplish nothing. Okay, which is that Patreon built something of value to artists. He tried to build something. He was an artist. He wanted to connect, like find a thing, right, that like allowed artists to connect and self-fund with subscriptions and go direct to fans based on the true fans principle. Again, if you did some fucking reading, you'd know what I'm talking about. And it took over because the fucking right-wing grifters in the media ecosystem and the moochers decided that Patreon was a place to double dip and grift rather than actually what it was fucking meant for. Again, moochers. They get 5% to run an entire infrastructure that includes video hosting, MP3 hosting, podcast hosting, fucking, you know, an interface, a way for you to post, an email system, notification system, an Android app, an iOS app, a web app. That takes hundreds of people to build, if not thousands, and thousands to maintain. And you turn around and go, no, I'm not going to pay for the fucking, you know, the 95% that goes to the artist because 5% goes to the platform made by a musician who fucking tried to build something to try and change things. And that's like, and it's like, well, okay, Elon Musk, right? Problematic. So you built something, you built stuff. You know, everyone's complex and it's hard to know what's fucking shit pieces and what's bad faith. I mean, you've seen the last 24 hours, or the last week, the sort of lies and bad faith bullshit, right? We don't know what's true. But I do know who lies. I do know who the bad actors are. I do know who the petty, moochy, complaining people are. And it is people like these fucking Surfs TV people, the destroyers, Young Turks 50-50, okay? Fucking, they're people, anyway, I don't want to name names, but I'm just saying they're people who don't build anything. And this is what, you know, as much as I make fun of Tim Pool and, you know, I think he's not terribly clever, I will give it to him that he tries to build alternative things. He tries to put his money to use to build something. Even if I think that he's, you know, like not, I love the fact that he is confident is great. Like his confidence actually outstrips his ability, but his attitude is good. I have more in common with him than I do with someone who I agree with politically, but is a mooch and who doesn't build anything and doesn't make anything. Okay. Now, again, I just want to clarify. I appreciate anybody who decides to become a patron. I obviously am very humbled by any of that, but I am also someone who has built a business, and I've been mooched off of like my whole career. People just fucking lowballing and exploiting and underpaying and like, you know, and it's just a common theme. And I'm just noticing like through this $8 fucking verification, people want having to pay for shit. It just brings out it just shows. Now, a part of it might actually just be like me being fucking triggered. Okay, I get it. But at the same time, like just how many people exploit other people on a daily basis. But the thing is, at least the right do it in a way where you know they're being exploited. You pretend that you're doing it and you're righteous, but you're still just being a landlord. You're still just doing the same shit. You just do it with a fucking, you know, woke veneer on it. I quit the agency I quit my agency because of everything that I saw that was going on. And I realized that I could not compete and maintain my ethics. I stopped making money deliberately. I would rather make no money than make it blood money, okay? And I spent 5 years trying to build something different. I've built a few different prototypes that go nowhere. I've tried to build a YouTube channel that goes nowhere. I've tried to build all these things that go nowhere. I spin my wheels, and then I fucking go, and the 1 week where I've actually got something meaningful to say, and I'm arguing with fuckwits about how, because they don't get it and they don't think it's important and they won't pay for it, that it's not of value. No, you're a mooch. You don't understand. You didn't do the work. The link between World War III and the war on Ukraine and fucking all these issues are very much linked to the problems with fucking Twitter. And this is the thing. Okay? 2%, like what is it? Like 2% of the population max, probably less than that now, use Twitter. But part of the reason why people don't pay attention to what's happening on Twitter is because they're not there and they don't know what's going on, and they don't realize that what starts on Twitter has bled into the real fucking world in a really meaningful and terrifying way. So to turn around and go, it's World War III, why don't you care about that? I fucking do. It's bringing that shit about. And this is why this change in owners, because that is what these psychopaths who owned Twitter beforehand were fucking starting. The groundswell of fucking resentment over censorship, the fucking manipulation. Again, read The Intercept this week about the Department of Homeland Security and all the fuckery that they've been doing, where if I talked about it, now it makes sense why I fucking don't have an audience anymore, where they were blocking like low-level accounts. Yes, okay, so Sashin exists. So when I say being a landlord, is that a metaphor for mooching / rent-seeking behaviours in general? Yes. So again, I think sometimes I try to turn the argument on its head. That's part of trying to figure out how to persuade people to fucking get their heads together, right? Which is that obviously the concept of a landlord, obviously if you own I'm not talking about someone who owns an investment property. I'm talking, you get what I'm saying, like, yes, rent seekers, right? Exploiters, right? People who just, moochers, yeah, you're right. Let me clarify that, because sometimes I think when you say things, again, because people aren't across the theory or the, I know you are, but the, most people aren't across the concept. I think, again, I was saying this to Paul actually the other day. It's a good point actually, where I can get 90% of the way to agreeing with someone and persuading with someone if I don't use the word socialist, for example. Or if you sort of name the pain or name the problem, the words you use does actually matter, right? Again, marketing, I know this, right? The actual words that you use matter. And so you are correct in the fact that, like, when I get going, I start saying landlord like I'm talking to some fucking loser who, but at the same time, I do mean specifically rent-seeking under capitalism, right? Capitalists, right? Not necessarily, a worker who's trying to get by with it and fund their retirement. I mean, they're workers too, right? So that's actually a very good point. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that. But sometimes, I just get off and I just go on a rant sometimes, right? It's part of the fun. But again, it's not. It's like that is also like us. That actually just highlights what a simplistic worldview ideology is. Okay, so when you're trying to explain sort of what it means to be on the left and what socialism means and all these fucking fractured things that happen on the left more than, happens on the right a lot, but they're better at like sort of tightening their ship when they need to, right? They're not a leaky bucket like the left, right? It's what we do best is fight. But this sort of purity test over their interpretation of things, like I would say that I'm more of a market socialist. But that's something that this market socialism versus libertarian socialism versus democratic socialism that is actually something that has been designed and, this is why I say let's just go back to basics. Go back to basic class analysis, because one of the fuckery things that has happened over the last 100 years, especially when dominated by the United States political science departments, right? Harvard, all those places, is that they fracture it to the point, they silo things down to a point where the actual meaning is lost, or the actual broader context, the broader trend is lost. Like that's something I've been talking about before. And this is, again, Godwin's law, right? But this is what happened in Nazi Germany, which was when you actually study the sort of how, that always that burning question, like how could they do it? What was, and this is, I think, this is the, again, because we've had hundreds of years of propaganda, and I'm not immune, but I'm saying my understanding of like a lot of the analysis and the takeaway was that it wasn't necessary. The narratives around Nazi Germany was that there was some sort of weird mass psychosis, or that people weren't in their right minds, or that people weren't rational. Okay, I think one of the things, which is that I think when you come at it from a political psychology, or like like that kind of that sort of when you come at it from a political psychology, political science angle, or like even just maybe it's just because I cross disciplines, I see it more, and because I also come from running a business and working with corporations and working in tech and just seeing that sort of that machine. Like no one, and I think this is the gap, which is that it's not on purpose necessarily. It's just it's just complex and interests, and again, it's that whole base superstructure concept. Like that's probably the rather than sort of splitting hairs over like how or what the details are, or sitting with a fucking beret at a cafe arguing semantics with somebody who actually agrees with you but lives in a different has something to offer experience wise, right? Which is the rationality aspect of what happened in Nazi Germany, which was when they actually interviewed some of the soldiers, especially some of the women who worked in like the kitchens or whatever, the concentration camps, they did it for perks. They did it for daycare. They did it for fucking, they didn't do it because they were brainwashed necessarily. Like one of the, I guess obviously there is a Marxist analysis there, which is that people got to eat, capitalism, all that sort of stuff. But it's extremely simplistic because people they still do make choices. It's just that in a certain structure, they make shittier choices. And that's why I've always said, like, I understand the sort of broader concept of all of these things, because I agree that as somebody, I've seen people make shitty choices. I understand why they make them. And the difference between, say, me and let's say a techno fucking, like an anarcho-capitalist, like the line there, this whole idea of personal responsibility. I believe that personal responsibility exists. Okay, absolutely, but you've got to have people not set up to fail and not set up to make like choices. You can't really. That's the problem with sort of the right wing and the conservatives, is that they make these choices a moral issue or something that's a failing within the individual over something where it's like, well, how can we help you to make better choices? That's a fundamental sort of difference, right? And so for me, it's like it's the same thing with any. I believe in, and you see these people who think that it's not about personal responsibility ever. and that everyone owes them something. And that's the kind of behavior, to get back to rent seeking. That's when I talk about sort of builders and destroyers, or builders and wreckers, or moochers, or whatever. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, which is that it's actually like very much linked to sort of a personality factor. It's sort of, I mean, you could say that it's probably personality disorders, but, I tend to not. I just say people just have certain temperaments, and certain systems encourage certain behaviors. Some people are stuck in the system. Some people are just not good people. That's the mix, okay? But that's the thing that I have. I think that's my struggle, I think, with socialism and this in general, and why I tend to sort of err more towards see, I hate these fucking spectrum terms. That's the thing. I hate, like, centre, left, left. Like, it's meaningless, okay? Really, it strips everything of its complexity. But there's, you still have a market with socialism. It's just, the emphasis is more on the well-being of people and setting them up to make good choices. It's not, blaming the individual and, you're on your own stuff. But at the end of the day, under a socialist state, at the end of the day, there's still people where once you're given everything and you make shitty choices, that's on you. That makes you a shitty person, okay? I'm a big fan of Alfred Adler, like the Adlerian psychology stuff. We're sort of listening to a lot of that at the moment. I'm a big fan of individual psychology. He was a socialist as well, but he was very much an advocate for, it starts with you. Everything starts with you. You be the change that you want to see. You do the work. You can't control other people. You can't sit around waiting, and that sort of stuff. So anyway, that integrates very well with working within capitalism. You can create a co-op or whatever. And that was my frustration, I think, with this tech thing, where people were just barking at me about how I didn't get it and therefore I was the problem. It's like, no, I've done the work. I know that tech companies were designed. Actually, I think it was you and I, Sashin, who actually, was it you and I who interacted on Twitter about this? I think it might have been, which was about how we could redesign some of these things. And I think one of the gaps is that a lot of these tech companies started out this way. And again, base of capitalism, because of the resources that you need to get these things done, because it's, I don't think, but again, it's just a matter of people. This is just one of those things where people think you can build Facebook in a day. Part of the narrative, I think this is where people get confused under the sort of tech story as well, which is that, first of all, there's this narrative that they created it in their dorm room and got lucky, but it's not that simple, okay? There's mythology of like a dude in the basement just coding something in a day, like that. That's a carrot to dangle in front of people like me, so that we go, well, we could get lucky. That's like the Idol audition stuff, right? That's like, you could get lucky. That's a lottery ticket kind of thing. But in reality, to get something from sort of basic idea and script, of which there are also hundreds. That's right. Yeah, it was you. Okay. Yeah, if Twitter could be run as a co-op. And I think this is the gap for people who aren't in tech, which is that we started that way. A lot of these businesses started that way, and they were naive, and sort of VCs moved in, and then they took it to IPO, and they kind of had hits on their hands, and the machine just sort of gobbled them up, and the business model gobbled them up. And this is why maybe I'm a bit more charitable to tech founders, because I've tried to make and launch several products and not quite gotten there. For various reasons, mostly because I told VCs that they wouldn't have 70% of my fucking business, right? They're quite predatory, right? That's that rent seeking we're talking about. But at the same time, that I think that this is the problem with sort of again, I'm arguing with a straw man here, okay? But I've encountered this stereotype quite a few times, which is the sort of moochy hippie, capitalism should not exist stuff, this is why I got shitty last night, which is that, again, because you don't value it doesn't mean it doesn't have value, okay? So, and this is where I think rethinking the way you look at socialism and capitalism is really useful, because a VC is really helpful in early stage, because you also, you can't get, users won't pay for things. And that's, again, that's a fact. I had that argument with a fucking person on Patreon. And I was like, okay, well, I won't pay because someone makes money off it. Yeah, they get 5%. And they've got staff and, hosting costs. I don't think people understand just how much, something like Twitch, right? Something like Twitch, or for me to live stream across 5 platforms right now, how expensive that is to run. Yes, Amazon with Twitch owns the infrastructure. They own the servers. It's a bit different, but that still needs to be made. Okay. There's still a whole team. There's security. There's a whole bunch of intricate labor that you don't see. And this is the problem where I think this, you've got bullshit jobs. Yes, there's bloat. And it's the same thing with Twitter. You've got bullshit. That's kind of funny. But there is also work that is really valuable, that is invisible, that you don't see. Especially in IT, where, every little fucking thing can break something else. A lot of it is dealing with legacy. A lot of it is, people have no concept unless you build something. And again, that ease up on that 12-hour, 16-hour day thing as well, because I can also see how you'd have to kick people in the pants in this situation. I said that, I think, on Wednesday. And this is, I think, the problem with ideology, right? Marx said this, problem with ideology is that you end up so rigid and that you miss the point. You miss the point of everything. And that's what's happening with this, which is that user experience design, you might think it's bullshit. You might not value it. You might think that it's easy to just move buttons around, but it's actually not that easy. I spent 30 years of my life. I dedicated 30 years of my fucking precious life seconds, 16 hours a day, on tech, learning how to code, learning how to test things, learning how to measure, learning human behavior, learning how humans and also I didn't have the wealth of knowledge and depth of data that people have now. I learned it myself. Okay, there was no university course in this when I was doing it. We were learning it. That has value, because I have experience that I have paid forward. Okay, people stole, but that's the rent-seeking part. And that's my argument with Twitter and people not wanting to pay for Twitter or whatever, which is that that has value. And that's why I do tend to cast that broad brush, which is that the people there's a common thread, which is that you just don't see the invisible labor that goes into something, and you don't value the labor that goes into something. You seem to have this sort of, arguing with a big straw man. But I've just come across this archetype over the years where they will disrupt a meeting or block everything or be a fucking difficult stakeholder or argue or waste the time of everybody, letting perfection be the enemy of the good. And, it's like, well, and then they'll turn around and accuse you. I mean, this is something that fucking TERFs do, is accuse you of being a fucking, bootlicker or handmaiden or all those things because you actually just know how things work. It's not gaslighting you to say it's not going to work because I actually know things and have experience. And that's the thing with Twitter being run as a co-op. I think Angrynomics, there's a book I can recommend where they talk about, I think data dividends in this case is probably a better way to do it, because that, again, a lot of their Angrynomics is actually a really great book. I wouldn't mind actually trying to interview those guys when I get my podcast up and running. This data dividend stuff, which is basically that everyone who sort of contributed to the platform's content or whatever, and based on tenure and stuff, they get a dividend. Okay, and because of the use of the data and the way that it's used and all of that stuff, and because of the value, I don't think people realize that data can also be extremely valuable for things like health research, yes, military and drones, but people are just they have just such a strong negativity bias. Part of the reason why a lot of tech people bought into data in the first place, and the way that because it was cool. is because it's interesting, and being able to find like the progress that we've made on like just health, efficacy and stuff because of big data, spotting heart attacks, better medical tech, people being, being able to spot like things earlier, detect cancers earlier, those sorts of things, right? This is where data is useful. Okay, now the problem is that there's always a flip side. There's always a dark side to that data, and who owns it? Like the fact that that should be publicly owned, or, I mean, again, I don't know whether that's realistic. I think that I honestly trust data. Again, these are in conflict, which is, do you want the US government to own our data? Because if with all these lefties in the US arguing that Twitter and those things should be a public utility, what does that mean? That means that it's owned by the United States government and run by the United States government. I don't want that. Do you want it run by the UN? I don't want that. Who do you want it to be run by, right? These are big global problems. And that's why I think this is the fundamental lack of understanding, I think. Or it's not, okay, no, that's not fair. It's not a lack of understanding. It is a failure to adapt and move forward and get back to basics on and contextualize Marxist thinking or capital, all these sort of ideas. Like anyone who's harking back fucking 300 years and acting like things haven't changed severely and that we don't need slightly different solutions, right? Such as, like Marx and then capitalism, and then, the markets failed after the Depression. We're always learning and moving forward and iterating. And this is something that tech does better. And again, I'm not saying I'm a technocrat because I tend to be pro-democratic, but everything has its benefits. I'm just sort of spitballing right now, but I just want to talk about that because this is why Twitter is important. Because Twitter it might not be important to you. It might not be something that you pay attention to. It might be something you hate and have a love-hate relationship. It might be something that you think should disappear. But what it is important. It is important, and who owns Twitter is very important because at the moment we're in the shadow of a corporate takeover that is coming to light, which is massive scale fraud that I talked about yesterday, okay? Ad fraud, like this whole fucking cartel of 501c4s and non-profits that work with digital agencies to scam brands out of fucking, a fortune. You've got, big brands with like lazy marketing managers who just, take the numbers on face value, and then they take everything that they got the ear of these organizations. Okay. And this applies to anyone who might be gender critical or whatever the fuck you are, who cares? I'm focused on the problem, which is that, you getting the ear of one organization who's compromised, and it's like, that's not democratic. There's an anti-democratic anti-democratic flaw here, which is that there's this cartel, and I called it a cartel yesterday, a cartel of information, and it's sort of, all the way up. It's like a mafia of sorts that, again, not a conspiracy. So mafias are sort of a bit different because it's more like loose gangs of shared interests, right? It's more like kind of how drug and how their cartels all work together, but for shared interests, right? Not really a conspiracy as such, right? But they just happen to align and collude because of the way humans are. But you've got these organizations that are dedicated to, their side and their cause, and they have managed to squeeze out sort of independent voices. And they've, and there's a lot of people who just are mooching and in some cases committing outright fraud in the case of Twitter execs and like what's going on with Twitter. And so this, and in tech, and this is where, when I'm talking about this Twitter takeover, the reason I'm talking about it is because I'm here to remind you that was not what was intended. Okay? It was designed as something different. It was designed as something intended to be more like a co-op. These companies they just received, and this is the problem with Silicon Valley. This is why, anarcho-capitalist guys, they mean well, but they sort of turn it on its head because first of all, they're in America, but also they're flush with cash. They still think that, they're still, but their intentions are not evil. And I think that that's where ascribing evil and malicious intent to anybody who sees things differently or has different way of solving a problem, that closes you off to solutions. And you're not, and so when someone's sitting around being like, fucking, when I say I become a fucking capitalist when I see these people interacting, that's what I mean. Because I go, well, these guys look more like they've got the solution. And that's the same thing with someone like Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Twitter, the reason you should care about Twitter, okay, is because that's where all the journos hang out. And just because you don't realize that it's coming out of Twitter, it was like, 5 years ago when I said, this is coming out of the fandoms, this is coming out of Tumblr, all of this Gamergate shit, it spills out, okay? I can tell you, I know where it's coming from, okay? If you've got cockroaches or you've got, like I said, early detection, cancer, right? People value that, early detection. Twitter is the quickest way to see what's coming down the pipe if you are paying attention to key things, like following Media Matters and seeing what bullshit clips they're sharing. 3 days later, the maggers are reacting to it, okay? They're all doing, it's like paying attention to where it's planted. It usually comes down the pipe. Same phrases over and over again. Cruelty, cruelty, blah, blah, blah. They all just work in lockstep because it's all fueled by bots and it's all a big fucking ad scam. So to turn around and say World War III is starting, okay, if you didn't see what happened on Twitter during COVID and then, it was unfair and undemocratic and terrifying. And to the point where I actually just didn't talk about certain things that I thought were fucking immoral because I just knew that I wouldn't be able to keep my account. And that's not okay. Having learned from defending Megan Murphy and that fucking 5-year shit show that happened as a result of that, with no thanks, by the way. But, it's, again, perfection, enemy of the good, as per usual, and people who mooch off other people and just take that shit for granted. But it's just, this starts on Twitter. It all starts on Twitter, okay? The media's there, and also, I also see where the media start their lies, how they steal. They'll see something that's like 10 people are complaining about on Twitter, but because it's their narrative, okay, they'll take those tweets and turn it into a story. They then amplify that story. That comes from Twitter. The bad actors, the bots, the crooks, they hang out on Twitter in plain sight. And just because you don't think it's valuable and you can't fucking, you don't have the experience and insight to understand the difference between a bot and not and what's propaganda and what's not, doesn't mean it's pointless. And it doesn't mean it's not valuable. And it doesn't mean that those who are, that this isn't worth analysis, because I've been saying now for a good year that if we don't fucking deal with this, it's very, very dangerous. I've been saying this, and I'm not saying it in that stupid Civil War Tim Pool way. I'm literally saying, as somebody who knows about what happened in World War II, so that's why this guy turning around and saying something like, I don't care about World War III, I said, all I have done is to understand what happened to World War II, what happened in World War II psychologically, and see that the tech landscape is kind of heading in that direction if we're not very careful in terms of like the way that the United States Department of Homeland Security might be manipulating the conversation for geopolitical purposes. Read the Intercept article, which came out. We all knew it was happening. And this is why someone like Elon Musk, now I'm not saying he's not part of the system, but I'm saying that things are interesting. And I'm saying that he's one thing I do know about the money people I talk to, that I have talked to, is there's a room. And there's conversations that happen that are horrible conversations, and they don't give a fuck about you or me. Okay? We're like needles to nudge. We're points on a fucking graph. If we're lucky. Okay? We're cells. We're neurons, so to speak. Okay? But at least, again, this is just one of those things where at least it's not, it's more honest than somebody who's pretending to be the good guy fucking you. The Twitter execs and what they did and what is coming out is insane. Like the fact that they're not already fucking under arrest is bonkers and just shows the level of corruption that we're dealing with. The fact that they are able to just openly manipulate discourse in this way. Okay, now again, I've been pretty well on record, and I'm not somebody who denies the disinformation problem. I'm saying this stuff is used as a weapon. And it's the same thing with all this LGBT stuff, all the woke issues and stuff. This woke shit is a weapon to be used at will to silence anybody who is inconvenient to those who are in power, people like Taylor Lorenz, Kiwi Farms. This is why I've been so interested in what happened with Kiwi Farms, because there were no criminal charges laid. He didn't do anything really other than, say shit I don't like. I don't like it either. It's not my thing. But it was just interneting. But the fact that there was no criminal charges, and that, these forces can unilaterally act without any scrutiny or any consequences whatsoever is terrifying. The fact that a psychopath who works at a newspaper can just make some calls and get people shut down because they know people at Twitter and they have a blue check. Okay. You see where that is terrifying. Okay. Now, could Twitter run as a co-op? Maybe. I think that and this is why I think maybe I'm more charitable than I should be. Every time I end up laughing and defending Elon Musk, he goes and fucks it. Is what he does. But at the same time, you can't just suddenly make changes either. Like, we don't know. Like, I talked about this, I think, on the first part 1 stream, which was that this could be the first step towards the data dividend and staking, which is that, okay, well, let's get a lay of the land. Let's see who's willing to pay for it and then measure it. Again, that's a tech thing. Like I said, you have a hypothesis. This is lean. This is a lean project management approach. Okay. Normally you'd have especially when you're dealing with a legacy tech company, you've got to be very careful about, especially at the moment, because they've got midterms. Like the outcome in the US, like the outcomes of any kind of major big decision could be quite serious, because you've got like unrest around the world. You've got, the Brazilian election. You've got all these other complicating factors where you have this beast here, where if you go and just open it up the floodgates, you just don't know what's there when you open them, right? You don't know whether these fucking bad actors have been planning for this takeover. And based on the tantrums that I've seen from the MAGAs, I think you'll agree that they were hoping on being brought back before the midterms. But this is where project management and understanding, especially tech project management, comes in, which is that he's asking people who made money off the platform and who love the platform and who use the platform a lot to kick in. Okay. Now, Twitter Blue is obviously dead. He's on record saying that it's dog shit. But it's also the place where there's payments and where it's a subscription. It's already set up. The infrastructure if I was the infrastructure for Twitter Blue, billing, Apple Pay, the subscriptions, all in-app purchase, all that stuff is set up already. So the easiest way for him to get people to stake in is with Twitter Blue. Okay. How would you build a co-op from there? Well, maybe people can stake higher and higher and higher and get more of a dividend. Okay. That means then maybe once you restructure the organization, take it private, do all of those things. Again, he's only just taken it private and gotten rid of the directors. Okay. Once you take it private, this is why it's like think through stage 3, 4, 5, and 6, like the solution stuff. It's like, okay, what's the most charitable thing that could happen here? Which is, he's using the infrastructure for Twitter Blue to get people to buy in, see who's subscribing, test his hypothesis that these people will pay whether they want to or not, all those things, and gauge the reaction, and then see if they can expand the value out from there, which is that maybe at some point you'd be able to pay as much as you want. Like you could be able to buy a share or a stake using Twitter Blue. And then you would get some, maybe you get some form of, NFT, some sort of smart contracts, and, they sort of start to build it on top of Web3 platforms. And then, you sort of work together, and maybe Jack and him sort of work together and federate, and then they kind of transform. These are like massive projects. They're complex projects, and you don't know. You can only go by what he said. And the worst possible thing is bad for your mental health. The worst possible conclusion is bad for you. because you know that it's just going to be the deep state's coming to kill me. Like, that seems to be the only rule, or fascism. That's really the only thing. And I've been warning about it, but at the same time, there's opportunity here if it's done right and designed correctly, and it's just not overnight. And again, this is my problem with fucking tech moochers in particular, socialists. They think everything does. Again, people who don't value labour don't value the effort, and that means they have no idea how long things take. And they have no idea what expertise things take or how long projects take. Fucking I don't know if you've ever been a stakeholder in any kind of not-for-profit, but they're the most, it's like herding cats. In terms of, they're like, I want it next week. Well, you can't have it next week. It's due next week. You can't do it. I thought you were a socialist. No, I'm not. Get your work done. I want you to work. See, some of the most toxic organisations I've ever worked with have been left-wingers who have no concept of effort, because they think everyone should work for free and they live in a fucking communist paradise where, like, this is the problem that we've got. And that's why I see the real political axis is more with those who sort of build and contribute and try to fix things, and people who just, criticise and don't buy in and just mooch. That's why I see that axis as quite important in terms of these problems, because, I'm buying in. I had Twitter Blue anyway, but I'm saying I'll buy in, not to get the blue check. Like, those people will just, because that's what motivates them. They're the ones that are motivated by clout and taking. I don't give a fuck if the blue check's part of it. I would like my blue check, and it's funny that they don't get one if they don't pay. But at the same time, for me, it's always been the reason I had Twitter Blue. I don't read the media that they fucking like promote there. But when Jack talked about sort of transforming Twitter before he left, I went, okay, well, I'll buy in. It's $5 a month, and also trying to fucking use their support because I couldn't fucking fix my account. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I still believe that, at the end of the day, as I think it's just a tech thing and people just don't understand that the socialist capitalist axis, while useful for analysis, it falls short in terms of solving the problem. And a lot of the people who are trying to solve the problem actually agree with you. And I think you'd be surprised how many, as much as the libertarian crypto bros are fucking insufferable, right? How much we actually agree on, like I said, when you don't use certain words. Okay, and that's where you go, okay, well, we have the same problem, and we can solve the same problem. We can come at it from a different angle, like the data dividend, right? That's one of those things where, so anyway, this is my point. But, but this is again, I think this has been the theme, and this has been the real takeaway for me, is how little people value things. And again, I love the book Bullshit Jobs, but the problem is that everyone thinks that their job's not a bullshit job, but mine is. That things, and even a venture capitalist, okay, as much as I'm not a fan, okay, you can still be a somewhat useful, you're still a good venture capitalist. You still provide something of value. Obviously, it's an exploitative situation, and they don't need to ask for 70% of your business in order to give you crumbs, and you don't need to be controlled. Much like like renting a house for a reasonable rate has some value to it. You shouldn't be handed a house just okay, that's a bad example. Okay, you should have shelter, but you shouldn't be handed a mansion just like not everything is. Not everything goes in with the intent of exploitation or is predatory. Some things are just mutually beneficial, and the market does work when it's mutually beneficial. It's the corruption and the exploitation and the fact that we seem to have a very high threshold for tolerating psychopaths. And socialist analysis works to a degree, but it's analysis. It doesn't really, what's the answer? Like, I said this to when, early with this gender critical shit when I wish I'd never gotten involved, but when I got involved with it, which was like, what do you do? What's your plan? When you say trans women aren't women, what's your plan? What exists? You're going to kick them into the sun. You're going to say they can't have fucking, like, what the fuck's, like, what's your solution? You just sit there moaning on Twitter, misgendering people. It's not fixing things. None of it, it's like, yeah, anyway, there's a whole other side story. But that's what, introduced me to a lot of this stuff, because I hadn't seen the degree of censorship until I saw what was happening. Honestly, some of the censorship I agree with. I don't think you should be able to harass people. But I've maintained that. You should be allowed, there's a difference between swearing and being impolite and political speech and harassing people directly in their mentions, calling them a man. Different things. Okay, even Megan Murphy was borderline on that because she was inciting and, encouraging a fucking dog pile. But at the end of the day, I saw that this was precarious and could be misused, and because of the nature of, Unive's activities, that I stepped in. But these things are complicated, and I don't think that and complex, and I don't think that many people are solutions oriented. A lot of people are critics, and this is the thing with Elon Musk. There hasn't really been any real, I could do this better from anybody. I've seen nobody go, okay, how could I do this better? I have thought about, started to design an alternative platform. And people don't know how hard it is. It's really, really hard. Okay, it is hard to build something like that. And if that's the only takeaway you get from me, which is saying that shit is harder than you think, and that you are tremendously lucky and tremendously privileged to have access to these tools for free, and that the advertising model exists because you won't pay for things. Okay, that's why the you can't I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, become a patron if you want. But again, I also understand that people are hurting. But it's not just about. I'm not trying to guilt anyone and say that it's greedy. I'm saying you got to think about it. It's like, well, what is the solution? What solutions are you bringing to the table? Or are you just moaning? Because most people are just moaning. And they don't actually have any other solutions. Like like this thing with the Saudi prince who owns it. It's like he owned it before. He just rolled his shares into the private company. He was already there. But that's, again, the cherry picking. Who do you want to own Twitter? Who would you prefer to be CEO? People who are defrauding well, of course they do. They want people to defraud adverts because they benefit from that system. These left-wing fucking... I can't wait to see who still pays for their blue check. Oh, this next week is like... Mwah. Who's going to pay? They're all going to pay. And if they don't pay, it's more telling. And I hope that people stop supporting them, because it just goes to show that they're there to take and not there to build. They're there to... they were only happy so long as they dominated a platform that they could use for free to ask you and raise money with you. They use it to promote, they use it as a marketing tool. They use it to promote their services and to promote their bullshit fucking dog shit takes about Elon Musk's dad being a fucking emerald mine owner. I take Elon Musk on his individual strengths and weaknesses, okay? Some of it's America brain, libertarian brain, okay? But I don't think that he is fundamentally a terrible person. I don't think many people are terrible people. I think that the people you think are terrible people are very different to the ones that I think are terrible people, which is these YouTubers like I hate that fucking Surfs guy, that Surfs TV. My God, what a little bitch he is. Oh my God. But, like the people who are trying to go after Kiwi farms without criminal charges, the people that are obviously abusing their platforms, refuse to pay for it and making everyone else suffer because people disagree with them. I think that's pretty fucking... I find narcissism pretty horrible. Psychopathy pretty gross. I'm sure that there's people who don't like my swearing. Well, good on them. Okay? They can fuck off too. Don't watch. But that's the difference, which is that they cannot watch. I can't escape the people who are trying to destroy me. That's the difference. Okay? And this is where it's like, well, I think people should reflect and be honest with themselves about whether they really do want different models or whether they want to just moan about how they're fucking, the billionaires are doing everything without actually doing anything. Because, I know a lot of people who work in philanthropy and those sorts of things, and I think you'd be surprised how many really good people are doing a lot of work that others aren't doing. And I've had mixed feelings about that too over the years, which is I go, let the perfection, like the resentment that I go, well, they're rich. Of course they do good stuff because they're already rich. They do the bare minimum they're supposed to do. I get that feeling, okay? But there's good people and they're trying to do well. And a lot of billionaires at the moment, especially tech billionaires, they just got there. They got there because of speculation. Like Elon Musk got his wealth is because of his share price. He got lucky and won the lottery. Bezos got lucky, won the lottery. And also, again, their business practices are just, but that's up to the government to regulate. The fact that the government have been asleep on tech and fucking just used it as a weapon rather than actually sat down and tried to regulate them early on, that's the fucking problem. Again, someone who doesn't even know to fucking try refreshing her phone and quitting the app and opening it again after an update, accusing the world's richest man of fucking censoring her because she was being a fuckwit who won't give him $8 for clout. That's the people who are trying to who fucked up with tech policy because they can barely fucking understand the internet. People like me are shut out by these people because they were just, it was inconvenient, which was basically for me, I said, small business, individuals, independent creators, go direct. We don't need you, brands. Fuck off. We don't need you. You poison the earth. You ruin the fucking, you ruin our teeth. You make us all fat. You drug us to the fucking eyeballs. Go away. We just want to live. And, that's how you make a co-op. You just let the internet exist and be the internet without this corporate overreach. That's the fucking revolution that needs to happen. Not resenting and fucking, attacking anybody who tries to make it different and get rid of it and fights this cause. People like me get fuck all from anybody because I just, because I actually know what I'm talking about on this. Right? Not fuck all from anybody, but I definitely don't get funded by fucking Daily Wire, do I? Or I don't have 100,000 views every time I fucking speak. Do you know who gets those? The people who push this nonsense and don't value anything, the moochers. Pay for your fucking check mark, you lazy fucks. Not everyday people. I'm talking about, if I can pay for it, you can pay for it. I'm putting in a stake. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Become a patron if you can, but again, it's never expected. It's just, the arguments are separate from, again, it's always never expected. It's always appreciated. It's time for me to go. I may try to edit some clips over the week to see if I can turn this into some coherent fucking thoughts. But anyway, whatever. I'm going to go. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. I've got to figure out how to hang up. You hang up. No, you hang up. I love you more, and I love you more. You hang up. All right. Thank you for your precious life seconds, etc. I love you. Bye. Do 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 do. Everyone's a fuckwit. Bye.